Former board chairman Adom Ghana Airport Company Limited. Na wono kuro ya esan eye TV presenter Adom Metro TV. Wo dwumadi bi kra manfo no de kai na pa eye Good Evening Ghana. Mechire owura Paul Adom Otchere. Na Office of the Special Prosecutor eto nsafre no se omra na katasehye ne proye bi ho nsensem bi wo ho omeyi mfiri honom. Na opanyini timi koye ma yede ntansan esensen ne kom. Ewi achi no Office of the Special Prosecutor owura kisi aben man say ompe nipa mienu na woni aginamu na afen so krampo no wonyina japade akese bienu so a ewo ono Paul Adom Otchere na ankane no oye board chairman Adom Ghana Airport Company Limited so munyina so no mfa man bill na tansa na omde amano so man kokwa anyade ebeye eno ana owura Paul Adom Otchere enso echire mu se nyame no kwani oni ajapade bia ometimi adi aginamu adi amano eno anam so ama sesi ame no kasai wakotwere Office of the Special Prosecutor ni kukum se ne yesa wanyade ne tena ha obeda ha ma ade achi we ansana sebi ade achi watimi anya ayentotoye ene nhyehyeye na so bibi hu mobo na ebi obedi aginamu di amawode a ene ye hu de ebeye ni nyina ene se Office of the Special Prosecutor owura kisi aben dano no omo ede ntansa bi abo owura yi se okopiem ewo Ghana Airport Company Limited wo meko na opanyini eye board chairman a dwirimu ne katasehye ne project kankan bi koso wo meko a Airport Company Limited no omo ne eye company bi enya bandia enya revenue insurance bi contract bi kokoko so a nyame no nokure ni pepepeye nokuredie bi fan ye ankom eno enenam so ma woto nsa de frɛ no na wo meko a wo frɛ wo nomonyamfo Paul Adom Otchere ankane na wo ye board chairman Adom Ghana Airport no nokure ya sai TV presenter no enye ono nko a ne mlantie bi no bi so amuso ka ho a ba kudin ene Otchere Kwame baafo awua wono aye Group Executive Commercial Services Ghana Airport Company Limited ana afen so kura no onmonyamfo anaso owura ajete layi wono nso aye Chief Executive Officer Adom Definite Systems sampa info mienu nyina ayade omo aka eye owura Paul Adom Otchere ho omo nyina edamama ade achi se we na ade achi a empanyimfo mu ewo eye Office of the Special Prosecutor omo atimi ani omo atokese na ni ano baba ye bi ewo ho bia na omo atimi atoa so aba nsemu na se ntansa na rebo mu no si wie na se omo ho afi krogyen a ya gya omo amoma kodi omo nkui na se empanyimfo eduedue mu a na se ntansa no ebo mu dia ne enye obi ne kuma ntwi bu hia ko ede nti koji akyerema ne de empanyimfo waka no omu akan fefefe na se wo se edom kogina mra no e wo court a ane edom kogina mra no na mra no ane omu de no wensen se de Ghana ne bia ho ka ye de mra wensen ana adi na nka Paul Adom Otchere de danka dodo na de kai no airport papa ye Christmas tree bia ho nsensem ebaaye na ye hwe Christmas tree baako na ye kai ebo ye de to so a abrodi nyame a na ye abra kosem pa se o man Ghana ase ye de kenten pa na ekonsuo ye de sonye na sisi mati ani afo so mu di kachira to ase se o fa nkonsuo emegu ankuremma anyama se onimonyamfo anase owura Paul Adom Otchere timigina TV so Good Evening Ghana totoma ne mpanyimfo se omummu o manye corruption bribe allegations ahodo a wodi gu nkrofo so na wono baye board chairman na otimi ma kwan san krata ma check ma se yemfa nkoto Christmas tree baako ebuo ise etienie na ya de na ensem fatakora eno de dodo na ede ekai no na yenim se revenue insurance anaasɛ revenue assurance contract bi wɔ hɔ nom a ɛmu ɔwerɛ m nso saa ɛta akyire. Na wotietie mpanyinfoɔ nkɔmmɔdie mu a revenue assurance contract no a ɛno nam Ghana airport ho no ɛfa ho no sɛ yɛbie so kyerɛ wo a woyam bɛhyɛ wo. Wohwɛ sikadwerɛtɛ paa a atumi afa nkurɔfoɔ nsaase wɔ hɔ nom a ɛhia paa sɛ mpanyinfoɔ tumi yi nsɛm wei ɛnam so ɛma Channel 1 TV ɛne lawyer baako a ɔmo gyina mu atwitwa ade agye Paul Adom Otchere. Onimonyamfoɔ Nelson atwitwe nkɔmmɔ ma wɔn nso kyerɛ mu sɛ nyame nnokwe ni. Deɛ ɛkɔ so no wate paa no mu nim deɛ ɛkɔ nyinaa. Nanso no ɔmo bɛbɔ mo homɔden biara sɛ ɔmo de nhyehyɛ papa bi gu akwan mu na baabi a Paul Adom Otchere ɛda no ɔmo atumi ayi na afiri hɔ efisɛ nyɛ hɔ ɛne ne tenabea. Ɛno nti no ɔmo nso bɛyɛ ɔmo afa mu die biara sɛ lawyerfoɔ na ɔmo atumi abɔ wɔn homɔden na ɔmo atumi ayi no afiri baabi a ɔhyɛ no na afei nso watumi akɔ baabi a ne comfortable zone sɛdeɛ ɛbɛyɛ a nneɛma bɛtumi atotɔ akwan mu ama biribiara atumi akɔ so kama. Na sei ɛna nkɔmmɔtwetwe a Channel 1 TV ɛne lawyer baako a wɔn nso so ɛka wɔn a wɔn twitwa agye Paul Adom Otchere mfo wɔtwetwe no ɛsi ɛkɔɛ.
Your clients at the moment.
A very good evening to you and your viewers this evening. As I speak to you, I'm unable to say for a fact where our client is, except to mention that he's been moved from the office of the special prosecutor. We are getting conflicting reports as to his location. We've been to the National Security Head Office and we've been informed he's not there. And so we are still making frantic efforts to locate specifically where he's been taken to.
Right. The OSP has released a statement saying that your client was not able to meet his bail conditions. What is the difficulty here?
Now, first of all, the statement by the OSP and all honesty is out of place. The challenge that the OSP has set is essentially to give the dog a bad name so that you can hang it, because it is unreasonable a contest of bail to require an accused person to produce properties in his own name. What the OSP is essentially saying is that persons who lack properties or poor people in this country cannot own or cannot make bail in this country. The shocking fact is that while taking the profile of the suspect indicated that he does not own any landed property. And so for the OSP to set 2 landed properties in his name as precedent for his bail condition is essentially concluding to hang him and detain him. And so we find the bail conditions very unreasonable. It is akin the person to buy bail, and we think that it is completely out of place for any reasonable law enforcement agency to require such bail conditions.
But are you working to meet the conditions, or are you throwing your hands up in despair?
As lawyers, we are going to deploy every legal means necessary and every legal means ethical to meet any conditions that the law sets. But as you are well aware, where those conditions are also unreasonable, there are options available to us, and we intend to pursue it to the fullest. I must point out, yes.
Go ahead.
I must point out that as far as these bail conditions are concerned, except the Office of the Special Prosecutor is asking our clients to find money to go and buy 2 landed properties so he can secure his bail, it is completely out of place, because the suspect says, I do not own a landed property. So that condition for now cannot be met. It is unreasonable.
But what other options are available to you to ensure that you secure his release?
I mean, we are still discussing our options, but the bottom line remains that in the hierarchy of affairs, the OSP ranks lower to our courts, and the courts always have the power to relook at conditions that are set by such bodies. But the fundamental point remains that these conditions that have been set by the OSP is calculated to detain Paul Adom Otchere and nothing else. It is solely calculated to detain him, even whether for a night or 2 and nothing else. The conditions can, because you see, the point is that usually when law enforcement require bail, they don't even want properties of the suspect, so that in case the suspect runs away, the person who has stood surety would forfeit his properties and can't produce the suspect. It is out of the ordinary that law enforcement requires that the suspect should provide landed properties in his own name. In situations where you ordinarily even provide, the court would often reject it, asking that somebody has to come and bail you. And so we find what the OSP has done completely out of place, out of line, unprecedented, and no well-meaning Ghanaian should endorse this, especially for journalists, because this is setting the tone for getting people to keep quiet when their issues in respect of their operations come up for interrogation.
Right. Counsel, where Paul Adom Otchere stays currently, is it not his own house? Can he not use that as one of the landed properties?
He has indicated, like I said, in his suspect profile, that he does own a landed property. That property belongs to his mother, properly so called. And that is why it is. And so it cannot be, like I've stated, to require him to own landed property. That, as I sit here, I don't own landed property. So if I come into conflict with the law, I can't have bail. If the average person on the streets come into conflict with the law, he has to own landed property to be able to make bail. Mind you, the purpose of bail is to secure the attendance of the suspect and not as punishment. And so they must be reasonable. And especially in the case of somebody like Paul Adom Otchere, who is a public person, who is well known, it will not even be out of place to grant the person a self-recognizance bill, not to talk less such unreasonable and unconscionable conditions as the Office of the Special Prosecutor has said. We think that this is setting back our democratic values and clock by far many miles. And we should be ready to speak against it on any day.
Will you be heading to court for a bail variation?
As I said, we are still discussing our options. And in the coming days, you see what steps would be taken towards realizing our client's freedom as it properly should be.
All right, Counsel, ahead of the meeting with the OSP, we saw a letter written by your chambers to the OSP. What were your initial concerns?
The initial concern was that, again, the OSP's letter came at a time when most of us were unavailable to. And so, as has been the practice with law enforcement, and this is not the first time, if for any reason they are unable to realize counsel's presence, we would usually engage with them and then the meeting will be rescheduled. But again, as if it is some premeditated and some pre-scheduled scheme at all points and in all intent to get Paul Adom Otchere detained, that letter went in a matter of 2 hours. The OSP had responded. In fact, we saw the response in the media even before it actually reached us. And for us, that speaks to a certain pre-calculated attempt here and skew these facts to detain Paul Adom Otchere. We don't think that the OSP is acting in good faith, and we think that moving forward, all well-meaning Ghanaians, again, should speak against this, because we cannot have law enforcement use its powers in the oppressive manners that the OSP is exerting the powers that they want.
Right. What are the specific allegations against your client, and has he been formally charged?
In fact, that is the other inconsistency in the statement that the OSP released. The OSP purports to have charged our client, and yet again they say that they are investigating possible procurement breaches. The suggestion being that they themselves are inconclusive regarding the findings that they have or what charges they are proceeding. Now, even more surprising is the fact that they claim the contract was awarded to a body other than what the board approved, meaning that the board did approve a body. But even more strange, the managing director who signed those contracts is working, and yet the board, who as it were sits at a higher level and only provide policy direction and approval, being imposed with outrageous and unconscionable bail conditions in the hope that they will be detained if they fail to meet it. We think that the OSP's approach to these issues does not bode well for our gains when it comes to criminal jurisprudence, and we should all be willing to deal with it.
Counsel, what explanations has your client given for the allegations leveled against him?
I would for now not want to go into those merits, but for those of you who have access to TV, Paul Adom Otchere himself this morning laid out the facts as relates to the issues before the OSP on Metro TV this morning. And that is just what he stuck with and what he has told the OSP as far as his knowledge in the matters that are in discussion are concerned. Nothing beyond that. And so whatever he said this morning in relation to the board approving based on recommendations that were made and based on assessments and non-financial commitment by GACL remains what the record reflects as being the position of the board on this.
Do you think he's being victimized?
I think so, because we all know, in fact, that Otchere has been one of the vocal critics of the special prosecutor. And throughout the time of his criticism, he has consistently maintained of schemes and attempts to more or less silence and punish him. And it is why I say that journalists particularly must be up and speaking, because today it is Otchere, tomorrow it might be somebody else. Nowhere in the jurisprudence of this country has it been said that a person must own landed property to be able to make bail. And even when they were asked to vary the bail conditions because the suspect had stated he owned no landed property, they blatantly refused and insisted that if he does not own landed property and therefore cannot produce basis in his name, he was going to be detained until he has met it. Clearly, he's been victimized with the sole purpose of detaining him with the hope that he would keep quiet in respect of matters of the OSP. But we know our client is a man of conviction. And regardless of what happens, what he believes to be right, he would insist and speak against no matter what happens with the OSP.
All right, lawyer, thank you very much for speaking to us.
Odofo, na we ene de ekɔ so ɛwɔ po Adom Otchere. Ene nipa mienu bi a ɔmo ɛka ne ho a baako yɛ fɛ no Otchere Kwame Baafo awua. Ɔno ɛyɛ Group Executive Commercial Services Ghana Airport Company Limited. Ɛna afei nso koraa no owura Albert Detaine Lai. Ɔno nso so yɛ Chief Executive Officer ɛde ma DevNet Systems. Ne akosi no ɛno no na utimi hu sɛ Office of the Special Prosecutor a owura kisi ajaben ɛdan no omu ani abere sɛ krodom pa evise fi sɛ yɛte office no wohwɛ adwuma a 2025 bosome nsia ɛkɔ nson nie no omu atimi abɔ no ɛnya asɛm ketewa wohwɛ mfie nwɔtwe a de bi ɛyɛ Office of the Special Prosecutor bosome nsia ɛkɔ nson ya na office omu atimi ayɛ adwuma gidigidi ɛkyechi omu a anase omu frɛfrɛ omu a sɛbi mpɛdo asa omu susu sɛ sika afa omu nsa ase enti obi bia watimi afa Ghana sika ne bi ahyɛ ba bibia no onyina ye efiri sɛ Office of the Special Prosecutor owurakosi jaben ɛdan no omu ani abere sɛ krodom enti wo nso so sɛ yade sɛ yama position bia wu kita mu sesi ya nso so a wo so hwɛ ho ye ɛmfa ho ne sɛ unni ɛsoro kɛse na wo aseɛ bi a district assembly na ba bi saa bɔ ho ban pa na hwɛ ho ye pa.